Craic, here for episode 2 of the Craic Boys. I'm now joined with my permanent co-host, David Coyle, who's already a member of the Craic Boys. Also joined here with Sadsac. He creates his own clothes. His real name is Daniel. Fartwizard, if you know him well enough.
What's going on?
I'm going to hand it over to David now, and he's going to say a wee bit about everybody who's here.
Well, behind the camera we have obviously Dave and Tom and Laura Buttle and also Danielle, if you remember from the last podcast, which you should, because you should watch it if you haven't watched it.
Plug.
It's a plug for the last
Plug.
one. And obviously joined with our special guest Daniel. Daniel, do you want to tell us
What's
who
up?
you are? Tell people.
Wee synopsis.
What's your deal?
Who you are.
Not too much like.
Man, my name's Daniel Walters and I'm a fucking designer from Donegal.
Perfect.
That's all.
I own the
want.
brand. That's it over.
That's all we want.
Break
Cut
that
it.
out.
Cut it out. So, Daniel, where do we start here? I suppose, how did you start getting into what you're doing? Creating clothes, selling clothes?
I started like thrifting, like pretty much like Sadsac, like started whenever I was like 16, you know. And like Donegal, like the charity shops are insane, you know.
Well, we don't go having good charity shops. It's not a place I expect to have good charity shops.
Man,
because
the reason it's so
Donegal-
fucking good is because like no one ever fucking comes to Donegal. And like Letterkenny is not a city yet, which is like pretty much the closest place to being a city. So like all the fucking like good shit is like 50 cent to €1. So like it's really easy to get like good like thrifted clothes there and stuff, you know.
I mean, like, I suppose in Derry, because it's a small space and you're thrifting, you're going to charity shops and stuff, and you're looking for certain things. This is a town where everybody's doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? You need to be there first day, sort of looking for it.
Yeah, like thrifting's changed a lot, man, in the last like 2 years because like it's such a trend now, especially in Derry. Like it's weird seeing people kind of like flex on going to the thrift shop, but like back in the day, like before this all started, like thrifting was literally because like I couldn't afford to go to Top Man, which is the most embarrassing shit ever. But like legit, like if I wanted to get good clothes, like you literally went to the thrift shop, and like back then, you know, I was always wearing like really interesting like 90s clothes and stuff, and people thought I was so rich. So this happened pretty much in secondary school. And like, I was wearing all this kind of like cool gear according to people, and pretty much like, that's what people always said. Like they always thought I was like really rich or some shit, but I literally was wearing like €10 outfits for like 2 months straight. Like
I've never got anything like from a charity shop that I've liked, and it's like a nightmare. And like I'm not gonna say don't
For real?
go to a charity shop. I never got anything, bar like when I was in Berlin.
it's because honestly I'm
hard to
scooping
do.
everything up. Like
So how did it progress from you thrifting for clothes, you thrifting for clothes, then redesign and put out?
so like pretty much like when I was in like secondary school, like I was collecting so many clothes at that point because like whenever you find a 90s Tommy Hilfiger, even if it's like an XL, you're not gonna leave it. So I
You'll
was
just take it.
that's pretty much where my style evolved. I was kind of wearing oversized because, you know, you don't pass up on that shit. You just take it regardless. And like pretty much when I was like 14, 15, 16, I had such a collection that like people were just like, man, I'll buy that for 50 sheets. And I was like, well, I have no money, so therefore I will sell it to you. And pretty much I was like the kid in school that people would have come to and been like, do you have anything like this? And I would have been like, yeah, I'll sell it to you. So that's pretty much where it started. And then
Progress from there.
it pretty much progressed from there.
Yeah.
So it's like Sadsac again is like a vintage store from thrifting, and then it evolved because I like made money from it.
You just created your own brand around something that's so close to people.
Yeah.
Essentially. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just taking thrifting to like a more personal thing for people. Do you know what I mean? When they buy your stuff because you've redesigned it. So it's nearly like a one-off piece.
Oh yeah,
Do you
like
know what I mean?
the big thing for me now is obviously reconstruction. I feel like a lot of my followers are here from that.
Yeah.
So like yeah, that pretty much just evolved from that kind of thing. I always wanted to get into reconstruction, if that's what you want to call it, because it's such a
I think that's a good way
Yeah.
to put it. Like.
yeah. So it's kind of just evolved into that now. And again, I'm pretty new to it. I've only been doing it like 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's picked up a lot in 3 months.
For us, I think people just look at it and it's so, for example, like your inspirations are from like you do the WWE jeans and you do like a lot of Marvel characters and Disney characters and stuff like that, and I feel like people definitely connect with that because part of their childhood
Yeah.
or whatever
For
and
sure.
stuff like that there. So it put on something that can be like, quote unquote, fashionable. You know, people will
Are you
like
saying
it.
it's not fashionable?
Well, it is,
Quote
obviously.
unquote, a good brand.
But do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
there is obviously, like, I know me a year ago wouldn't like go out of my way to buy a WWE top to wear out there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like honestly, like when we started the creative process for that, it was literally like in a garage, and the reason that I'd started doing reconstruction is because again I'd saved up a lot of money from like reselling vintage.
Yeah.
And I was in TK Maxx in Derry, and I was with a friend at the time.
What a store.
Unbelievable store. But I was in there, and the thing about TK Maxx is sometimes you find unbelievable stuff, but then you're just like, wait, why did they design it like this? You're like, why did they fucking ruin it? Because I seen like these fucking like distressed fucking jeans, and I was like, man, this is like really lit, but like fuck me, why did they have to ruin it with this corny ass, perfectly sewn? And I was literally just like looking at my friend, and I was like, dude, I could totally do this, but better. I was one of those kind of things where I was just like. I was like, fuck it, so we literally got a sewing machine off my other friend, a wee shitty sewing machine, and we spent like a month thrifting all this crap from all over Donegal.
Yeah.
And we literally just like stayed up all night, and we made the first pieces.
So
Class.
did you ever have any like history in like making clothes before this?
No,
Or
not at
just,
all.
like,
I never went to college. Well, I went to college, I dropped out, but everything I've ever
Drop
done,
out.
like everything I've learned is all self-taught. Like literally all you have to go to is Google or YouTube if you want to learn some shit. That's it.
I consider you quite self-made too, though. So is there any reason as to why you thought I'm going to make myself like my own living? Because obviously it's hard to get a job in
Oh, yeah.
Ireland in general.
The reason I started doing this was because since I turned 16, I always wanted a job. And it was weird because I was like one of those people when I was 16, I was like, I was going to be so fucking proud to wear like a McDonald's hat. Like I just wanted to wear that shit on the weekends. But literally like no people gave me a chance. I think it was because I was so fucking eager. And I was just like, I really wanted a fucking job that like I just never got lucky.
So did you get turned down from a lot
Oh,
of
literally, I think I
jobs?
got turned down from like 12 jobs, and pretty much like after all that, I just was like, fuck it. I think I handed out like 200 CVs.
Yeah.
In Ireland, especially in like Donegal, it's hard to get a job, especially if you don't get it in work experience when the time you're in school.
Yeah.
So by the time you're 20, they're like, dude, you have no work experience, and I'm like, fuck, I'm 20 years old, man. I've never gotten experience, so
Like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to work. but
literally, like, in these people never give me a chance.
Society.
So you would sell your stuff on Depop, yeah? How do you find working with Depop?
Yeah, good. Like Depop have like done me like, have like helped me out a lot. Like I remember the reason I started Depop was because again I had such a collection of vintage.
Yeah.
That like Depop was only coming up. This is like 2015, I think, 2015. And I just noticed that someone put it on Depop. I always avoided online selling
Yeah.
because it was just so intimidating. I was like, oh, so much effort to like fucking ship a t-shirt to like Nottingham or something. I was like, but Depop literally was like Instagram, and I love Instagram. It's really easy, user friendly.
It's a good mix. It's definitely a
Oh,
good
it's
mix.
it's just like such a millennial app,
It's crazy though, you guys
Millennial.
just make money off like literally taking photos of something on your phone and then just put it up there and like literally just go post stuff out. Like that's actually madness to me, like that
Yeah.
you can do that.
I remember.
The market's obviously going towards that though. Just
Ah, yeah,
like the
definitely.
accessibility of just seeing something I like that. Happy days, buy, check out, bang, there, it's done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas I would be different. Like I like seeing something in person, seeing how it fits. You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's why online shopping for me is probably smaller than it is for maybe any use. Just literally just down to the fact of I like seeing something, I like feeling it, I like.
I think it's
trying
one of those things like where if you're familiar enough with the brand, like especially me, if I'm buying vintage t-shirts, all you need to know is a tag. So for me, for example, like 90s Fruit of the Loom, if you wear enough of their t-shirts, you're gonna know how it fits. And it's essentially like if you buy like fucking 100 Top Man jeans, you're gonna know how that shit fits, and it fits fucking horribly. So like again with like Levi's, you get your 90s and like early 2000s, and again as soon as you get familiar with the fit, all you need to know is the fucking size, and that's it.
Well,
and
that's
you're
it.
good then.
Yeah, I get it. I mean,
Again, it's just like once you get familiar. Obviously, if you're taking chances on like off-brand jumpers and stuff, I understand that. But again, all you need is pit to pit in length, and you're good. And if they send you out that shit and it's fucking fake,
it's good
then
advice. It's good advice fees.
it's really handy. Like
So,
deep.
as well, with the you were saying today, you're like, conversely ship something to Nottingham for something like that there, right? But like, you ship out to America now, don't you?
I ship
Right?
worldwide, man. Everywhere. I think I've shipped to like every single country in the world.
What's your
Even, like-
biggest demographic? Like, where do you sell to most?
UK and America. America for my Sadsac stuff. I'm really like people love me over there.
Like your own. Like
Yeah,
your
for my
own
own, for my own like for my own actual design stuff, America, which I guess is a good thing.
That's madness.
Yeah.
It's like some fella from Donegal selling to like America, like, and
Literally,
it's
from and like everyone who hit me up, like
Nice.
like all the celebrities hit me up. Like again, that was all their choice. Like I never
you just
I
drop
never
that in
asked for
there.
anything of this. Like
Drop that in there. Now.
Well, why don't-
Celebrities buy my stuff.
no, it's just like I'm really
I mean,
honored. Like,
like, why don't you talk about that? Like the process of these people who have like a big following in America coming to you and finding you and finding your stuff, and then even dealing with them.
oh yeah, for sure. It was crazy. Like again, I'd only started the reconstruction for like maybe like 2 or 3 months. Not even like literally like 6 weeks at that point. So I was, we were putting it out there, and again, it's one of those scenarios where you don't expect it. Like I was literally just making art that I wanted to make, which
Yeah.
sounds so freaking corny, but legit, I literally was just like, I want to make the craziest ass jeans ever, and that's what we did. And then I just woke, I couldn't sleep because I work for myself. I get in these bad routines where I'm like up till 5 a.m. designing and shit, and like just like these terrible ass routines. And I was up till like 5:30, and because I'm always obsessed. Like every time I look at my phone, I have to look to see if there's a notification because I need that sale and all. So I woke up at like this one point at 5:30 there, 6 weeks into doing the reconstruction, and I looked at my phone and it was just like I was like, oh, Ass Pizza is trying to send you a message, and I was just like, one of those things where like I was just like, shut up. I was like, no. My first reaction was like, oh shit, what did I do? I was like, that was I couldn't even imagine that he was like
Yeah.
hitting me up just to be like interested. I literally was like, oh my god, I wonder if he's saying like, are you stealing my idea, you pussy, or some shit.
So for anybody who doesn't know,
Yeah, Ass Pizza is pretty much like the biggest influence in regards to reconstruction. Like I'm a really big fan of his. Like honestly, like I'm a huge fan. Like I pretty much like have seen his whole career like develop over the last like 6 years. So like him, getting in touch with me was a huge thing. Like I think out of all the people all the influencers I've been in contact, like Ass Pizza was like probably like the biggest one for me, because like
class.
definitely one of the reasons I got into this, because like he's he's definitely like an inspiration for that he definitely changed the game in regards to like reconstruction and
So on that as well, is there any other people who would influence you in regards to your own designs or any reconstruction pieces that you want to do, or is it just your own sort of creative, like
yeah,
track of thought? Or
I think like pretty much there's only like a handful of people I'd be like heavily influenced by. Like one is Daniel Johnston. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He passed away actually this year as well, and R.I.P. Daniel Johnston. He was honestly my favorite artist, and like he still is. I even like bought like one of his original like artworks, which is on my wall. And
class.
oh dude, like he's if you're not like familiar with his work, you should definitely check it out. Like the guy's a
Check it
genius, for sure. So like Daniel Johnston, like in Ass Pizza, were probably like my biggest inspirations. Yeah, in regards to that, because like if you know my work, like there's a lot of Daniel Johnston influence in that for sure.
Okay, for this
Yeah.
class.
But a lot of it is just like my own kind of creative mindset, just like
Which
nostalgia.
is great as well, because it is all about just taking inspiration from people,
Yeah.
and then obviously just doing what you want to do, and I can definitely tell that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, like I remember I seen this like Ass Pizza interview like a couple years back, and it was like he was like, oh, don't copy people, and then he sort of like corrected himself. He went like, it doesn't mean you can't get an idea from someone. And I think I pretty much took that on board. Like at the end of the day, if we were all being as original as we could be, like there would literally only be one person walking, one person wearing a black t-shirt. Like, you have to kind of get that pretentiousness out of you. Like at the end of the day, we have to be influencing each other in order to kind of build this.
Yeah, in regards to like being creative, I think your brains have to work as a collective.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? They achieve new things and better things, and address for new people.
Because before like Austin got in touch with me, like again my first response was like, shit, what did I do wrong? But even I'd forgotten, because again in Donegal, Ireland, nothing like that ever happens. Like
I know all too well.
oh, for sure. Like honestly, like nothing happens. Like for the last 3 years, I've been literally in my room just making shit, and like I didn't even know there was a culture happening in Derry, So
Which is good, and that brings me to a point as well. You spoke to us before, and you said maybe about moving to America. You were thinking about, just because you fit it in with things that were happening in America more, that were happening here, and then obviously over the past couple of years, things have been happening in the north,
Yeah.
which has changed your perspective. If you want to talk
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, for sure. Like I think like the first time I went to like America, like we went to LA, and my parents like we went to New York and Hollywood and all that shit. And like they loved all the touristy areas, and we went to Fairfax. Fairfax is pretty much like, that area with like, Supreme and all, like pretty much all like aesthetic wise, it's like fucking Tumblr 101, like that's where all the shit is.
It's the last couple of pieces on the Monopoly board, isn't it?
Exactly, man. Like it's a really like it's one of those places where it's very surreal once you get there, because again we see nothing like that at all. Like, instead of people like skating, like we have lads fucking kicking a shitty football that they probably like stole or some shit,
Pure busted football.
Pure busted dirty football.
Betting it up and down a field house. Lethal, Craic.
Yeah, so
But I know what you mean.
yeah.
Especially that, like, you're from a place in Donegal it's not too far outside of Derry.
It's literally 10 minutes outside Derry.
You
Not
know,
even like, yeah.
But even something so close to Derry, like it's very sheltered in regards to culture. Mm-hmm. If you know,
Yeah.
it's just everybody sort of keeps to themselves. There's not really a lot of
No.
growth culture wise.
Yeah, like yeah, culture in respect to like, what we're doing, like streetwear and all this kind of stuff. But I think culture is kind of this pretentious word at the minute where like, it's kind of hard to touch on, but like I understand what you mean.
It is. I think what I want to know most is just how something switched in your brain to go and do something towards what you're doing, because obviously your influences in regards to like friends, family and stuff influence what you do.
Yeah.
So how did you break the mold nearly of the people around you to do what you're doing now?
I just think again when I was in America, I met Lucas Versetti, I think that's his name. And if you don't know him, he's like the pretty dorky dude who was an Odd Future. He was pretty much like, like on the Odd Future t-shirts.
Yeah.
And he works in Supreme in LA, and that was pretty much my first celebrity encounter. So I think whenever I freaked out and all that kind of shit when I was a bit younger, like 15, I think when I got back home I sort of was like, I think something like definitely changed in me. I was like, I'd love to sort of have that feeling and sort of like, be that kind of influencer towards other people. And I think like some kind of thing like developed in my brain where I definitely knew that I wanted to move towards that, because I never like, having that encounter and sort of seeing that kind of culture, I never felt so much at home in my life. So, pretty much I was on Fairfax and I was really into Supreme at the time. And it was unfortunate that the Supreme shop was actually closed. But because I was such a fanboy, I like went to the window when I was like looking in, and I fucking seen I seen Lucas Versetti and I was freaking out because it was my first kind of seeing like a celebrity essentially, and
You're a fanboy.
I was fanboy, and honestly I was wearing my fucking Thrasher t-shirt, man, back in 20 fucking whatever, like 5 years ago. And my mum, being the Irish mother she's like, oh, who is it, Daniel? I'll ask him to come out. And I was like, man, God, shut up, like,
Ma, leave it alone.
but anyway, my mum,
leave it alone.
mum being herself, like, she's going up to the window being like, come here, and obviously all these American lads are, all these American dudes are just like, yo, what's this old girl doing? And they they come out and they're like, yo, what's up, bro, and shit. And I'm sitting there with my backpack looking like the biggest tourist, and my mum's like, oh, you're a famous skater, aren't you? Like, my son's a pure big fan of you. And I'm pure there, like, I'm like, mum, go on, shut up, my Thrasher t-shirt,
Mom, leave me alone.
And like
your Can of Monster.
my Can of Monster, my North Face backpack, my fucking Nike Dry Fit hat, the fucking wave back like 5 years ago. I thought it was so cool, but I was so nervous. And then Lucas came out and he was like the coolest dude ever. He's just like, oh, what's up? And I was like, can I get a photo? And he's just like, yeah, sure, dude. And then he's just like, does the photo, and in my brain I'm like, fuck, this is the coolest shit ever. Again, it's a different environment. Like, I fuck with our heritage, but over there it's like a movie, like, And that was pretty much it. It was a really weird encounter. And I think when I came home I was like, right, I don't want to be that weird anymore. I don't want to be that fanboy, and I really want to like sort of bring something, something back, kind of.
Right, and
that was definitely a big influence on Sadsac. Yeah.
You did that well because you've worked with other quote unquote celebrities.
Yeah, just like
Even if you want to talk about them, name drop.
Yeah, well, the recent one was Youngblood. So Youngblood's like stylist got in contact with me, and he was just like, "Oh, we're a big fan of your work," and he was like, "Would you be interested in like doing an outfit for Youngblood?" And he was giving me all these stats and shit.
So
And
for people who don't know Youngblood,
oh yeah, Youngblood's like he's a British pop artist. I feel like saying genres in 2019 is a bit.
we're like trying to work out the genre.
I'll just
like,
say alternative, but yeah, like so Youngblood's just pretty much like a British fucking music artist.
Would you rate him like?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I actually really like his stuff. Like yeah, I'd be a fan. I like his work. So I think that again, I would get like a few messages from people, and I tend to respond to the people I actually do like as influencers. So I got back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm cool about it. But I was still kind of iffy because I was like, I didn't really know if it was authentic. But Youngblood actually got in contact with me then. So I made in the trousers and I sent them off there. Like, oh no, actually they're still getting developed, but like I'm shipping them off in 3 days and stuff, and he'll probably like wear them. And but at the end of the day, even if he gets them and it doesn't it doesn't suit him or he doesn't fuck with it, I'm just honored that an influencer or someone within that kind of culture even like the idea of wearing a product that I produce. So I think in this industry, like you take wee chances, and if things don't pay off, it's okay. It's just like a learning curve. And at the end of the day, I think the idea of people just even who create art like he does wearing my stuff or even liking it is honestly like a huge honor. So I'm all about that kind of social aspect, interacting with people who I think are interesting characters. And
so he's pretty close to home in regards to an artist. Is there any more artists in the States that you've done stuff
funny
for?
enough, like Black Bear got in contact with me, and I made him stuff and sent him over it. He invited me down to a show in Dublin there, but there was like a mix up in communication because obviously he's like 2 million followers, and he was saying like, oh, I should have come down, he would have put me on the list and stuff, but it didn't work out, and I just sent him out the product. But again, I'd be a fan of Black Bear's music as well, so
cool.
It's pretty interesting for someone from Donegal getting in contact with these kind of people.
It's true. Do you know what I mean? Small town boy.
You met Wi-Fi's funeral too, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
stuff too.
Yeah, shout out Wi-Fi's funeral. Honestly, like he definitely gave me my like first big break.
Yeah.
In this kind of wave, and he reached out. I was actually on holidays at the time playing mini golf, and whipped out the phone, and it was like Wi-Fi's funeral sent me a message. What?
No. I really like mini golf.
Gangster life, eh?
Oh, I know, I'm fucking fucking chinos like.
Celebs and stages. Oh, sorry, I'm playing mini golf. I'll hang later, please.
Yes, like Wi-Fi got in contact, and again, it was like every time I see the message, I'm like, alright, this is fake, and he was just like, how much is your jeans? And then it just it was a conversation from there. But we really got on, and he invited me down to a show in Dublin there in the 20th of September.
Yeah.
And I went down to visit him. And it was crazy because the guys from Earth Gang were there, and I was in contact with them, and they were really fucking with my stuff, and they were like, oh, would you make me like Dragon Ball Z jeans and stuff? And I was like,
yes.
Yeah,
yes, I will.
But again, like I think
Dragon Ball jeans.
But even going into meet Wi-Fi, I was so nervous, but I was like, I remember like going down my fucking backpack, and I was like, what? I'd rather be like this wee nervous fool from like Donegal and be proper nerdy. And I went in there and I was just like, I remember like one of the first things I said was like, I'm really nervous, everyone. I was like, anxiety is real. And honestly, that's literally what got their attention. Like they literally looked so fucking bored when I walked in, but as soon as I said like, man, I'm super anxious and shit, they like kind of turned around like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And Wi-Fi is like, yo, dude, he's like, I fucking get you, bro. And like we just like talked out and we pre-drank before they played the show. And it was honestly a really cool experience. Like,
that's fun.
Like I really get on with these people.
So obviously, working with those people and like them contacting you, you're not even like trying to source them finding you and your stuff. It's obviously like a big confidence booster, and like saying to you you're headed in the right direction because the right people that are contacting you for your stuff. So how does that push you forward in future projects and things that you want to make?
I think from my experience, like I've had a lot of opportunities that I didn't hop on. Like, there was a few like encounters that I didn't take advantage of because again, I'd be pretty anxious and that kind of shit. So I think coming from Donegal, if you actually try hard or you're fucking being yourself, or you actually seem like you care about something you care about, you know, it's a weird fucking county
It's-
that like it's considered cringy or whatever.
Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, it's a strange environment. So I think coming from that and sort of learning that, I didn't hop on opportunities before, because there was an opportunity where like Cold Tart wore my t-shirt way back, and I was sort of weird about promoting it. I felt cringy, but I think learning from all that, I was like, you know what, at the end of the day,
It's nearly just the social anxiety of your home life and what's around you.
yeah, dude, it's like it's such a fucking like, you know, that kind of movie starter pack where it's like, oh, he's trying. Like that literally made me so paranoid. So I was like, fuck that, you know. But again, I think you have to fail utterly to be like, all right, well, I'm not gonna do that again.
And
you know.
I get what you're saying about, because I've spent a lot of my life in Donegal, growing up and stuff, and I've personally experienced just like being from Derry and having just something that's outside the normal for what people in Donegal are used to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to this day, you know, I still go to Donegal. I have a house there, and it's like, I land and they're like, Jesus Christ, sir, that looks mad. Hey, where'd you get that? You know, they're slightly more accepting of it now, but I can understand why somebody like you experiences it.
Like when I was growing my hair out, my granda was literally like telling me to cut my hair for like 2 years, and it wasn't even like a fucking, it wasn't even like a, I'll cut your hair or something. It was literally like, he was like, what are you doing? Cut your fucking hair, lad. And I, you know what I mean, like that is literally what it's all like.
Your granda looking at you, cut your fucking hair, lad. Just cut it tight.
What are you doing? Like, and I'm just like, can't shut up.
Leave me alone, granda, please. I get it though. I mean, you've obviously broken from that, and you're now just doing what you want to do. And I think as well, because you've now seen what's going on around Derry and that.
Yeah.
You obviously would more associate yourself with what's going on in Derry, just because it relates to what you're doing and what you're interested in.
Oh, definitely. But don't, like, there's a huge thing as well. There's this kind of paradox at the minute where, like, there is that factor where we come from a place where literally having long hair is a big deal for, like, a dude. And, you know, and, like, you know, obviously parts of, like, America, it's fucking normal. Like, having fucking long hair and skating is the norm. But, like, there's this kind of, like, paradox at the minute where, like, you know, people feel like you have to look completely different in order to be kind of artistic or to have an influence. So there's this kind of fucking bullshit at the minute where you have to have a face tattoo, you have to have dyed pink hair, and have to have dyed blue hair, which again I think is fucking cool aesthetically, but again you're kind of in that fucking paradox where you're kind of fitting in again. You know, you're just sort of like, oh, I'm cool. No, you don't actually
you're self-aware.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, you don't literally have to be that to be creative. At the end of the day, being yourself is essentially what this fucking whole thing's about. So, you know, I like normal flannels and I don't get tattoos, but, you know, I do what I do and that's what it is. You know, don't lose track of that. I think, like, these people think they have to have fucking, like, dyed pink hair to be trendy or to be fucking part of this. And that's bullshit. Like, I'm passionate about that shit. But at the end of the day, I fuck with that completely. And you're, you know.
I'm not
So-
gonna dye my hair anymore.
But, like,
Not gonna get
no
a face
dyeing the
tattoo.
hair.
I think again though, it's
No
just
face
it's just
tattoo.
being self-aware. Like I dyed my hair because I was a huge fan of like Lil Peep and stuff, and that's okay. Like I think that's fine. Like you go through phases and you're allowed to, and it's dope looking back at yourself.
Yeah.
But I just think there's a huge anxiety wave where kids are acting not themselves, and they sort of feel like they have to be this fucking arrogant piece of shit who's like fucking got a wee shitty face tattoo. Like, and you can be, and that can be dope, but just, you know, don't lose track of that.
Yeah.
Seriously though, man.
I
Fucking so annoying.
I understand exactly what you mean.
Hey?
Yeah, Lil Pump's a big viewer on our channel.
Yeah, Lil
he
Pump.
actually loves watching our stuff. Actually, get them on next episode.
In fairness, I actually do think Lil Pump's authentic. I think he's being himself, like, in fairness.
He has
Hey,
been
Lil
himself.
Pump.
But
You got an
Lil Pump,
endorsement from
there you
Daniel?
go.
No, I do. I think I have a good,
Self-promotion,
a good kind of radar for that kind of shit, like authenticating people. Like I think Lil Pump's about it, because at the end of the day, he didn't give a fuck about whatever. He started that whole kind of wave.
I mean,
of
like, when you
not
strip
giving
it
a
back,
fuck.
he really does not care
Oh no,
whatsoever.
literally.
Introducing our Lil Pump segment. So I've had a lot to talk about Lil Pump. No, I haven't. Actually, I want to actually touch on something. You're talking about obviously like people fitting in and stuff like that there, and that obviously comes with like the whole like streetwear culture at the minute as well, because like rappers obviously do like push the streetwear culture, and you're obviously breaking into that in the minute, which I consider your stuff like a streetwear sort of stuff. But what is your opinion on the current state of streetwear?
being, but what do you think is the current state of streetwear?
You asking me or you asking?
I know, I'm saying like, what would you consider the current state of streetwear?
Well, I think it's great, but I was asking you.
Cameras
I
on.
know, like,
Cameras on you.
No.
dog.
but what do you think it is? Like, what do you think maybe is like the hype
I
thing?
personally think it's quite oversaturated, but what you're doing is quite different.
But like, sorry, what would you consider yourself? Like, would you consider Reconstruction the new kind of shit, or would you consider Supreme or fucking what's popular right now, like a Cold Wall? Like, what would you consider the norm or the pipe? Oh no, yeah.
You're flip around there.
Well, I'm not the designer, but anyway.
There's a big kind of thing on that though, like where like some people would consider what's trendy is what's from the basement. David, chill, it's okay.
I know nothing.
Wipe a sweat off her head.
Oh, what do you think about it then? It's like, you know so much.
No, well, but it's just like what would you consider
What
the
would I
norm?
consider streetwear? Is that what you're asking me?
For
Is
you.
that what- for me?
For you.
For me? Right, so skatewear is obviously massive in streetwear, isn't it, right? Skate culture. So what do you think the state of streetwear is at the minute? Do you think it's oversaturated? Do you think it's good? What's your opinion? That's what I'm asking.
We got there in the end.
Got there in the end.
Got there in the end.
So Dave, what do you think about it?
No, like honestly, what I was asking like is because again, like some people think like Dickies is what's still streetwear essentially. So like when I was asking that, I meant like what like specifically did you sort of believe is trendy right now or whatever? Because there's a lot of like subgenres to it. Because like
so
okay,
many.
right.
you know what I mean? So like that's what I'm like specifically because I'm not in the basement and I actually don't know what would be considered hype. Because the last time I was in the basement, like Supreme box logos were fucking huge. So
Tell
like
people what the basement is.
the basement's like a Facebook kind of organization where like for streetwear, to sort of for creatives.
So it's basically just that whoever's like really like up to date with streetwear and stuff, like
Yeah.
what's trendy, what's not, what's coming up, what's falling off, blah blah blah.
I'd say like anyone from like Europe or like specifically UK would know what the basement is.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like a streetwear community.
Is the hype constructive or destructive?
That's a good question. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Again, I don't really think about that too specifically. I think that's why I asked you like such a
Okay,
specific
yes.
question because there's this whole kind of thing now where if you wear skinny jeans, you're not trendy and all this bullshit. Again, it's a fucking huge paradox of just pretentiousness and
Yeah.
like actual just annoying people. Like, so again, for me, if you wear fucking skinny jeans and you still have the Maddie Healy hair and all this shit, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't even think about it twice. I don't really think like that. That's just the way my brain works. I don't really consider what's fucking trendy or not, and that kind of shit. I don't really think about it too much. Again, I think that kind of comes from that kind of observation of like, what, fuck me. You just see some people walking about town in their fucking Palace Fall Winter 2016 thing and they think they're fire and it's like, you can feel cool in it, but it doesn't really define anything for me.
I mean,
Which like, I sound a wee bit corny here, but again, I wouldn't.
I don't know exactly what you. I mean, you can look at us three now, and we're all drastically different, like in our own regard.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you're wearing a beret, acting like a Frenchman. There's a baguette in my back pocket, actually. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
it's like, I think there's some people that get consumed in everything has to be branded and everything has to be this and people have to like this and this has to be relevant now or whatever. But it's like, the thing is, it's like you can be interested in that culture and be a part of it and invest in it, your money, and wear the things and do this and do that, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think it should just be a side part to what you're comfortable in wearing. Do you know what I mean? And
100%.
something at the end of the day, it's something that you personally would want to wear.
Aye.
Whether it be this brand or from a charity shop or secondhand or this or that or whatever. At the end of the day, it should be just what you're comfortable in wearing or what you want to experiment with.
I think it's just style. Like, style should always overcome fashion because like
100%.
fashion is like fashion is what like David was saying is it's what's new, what's fucking trendy or whatever, and I'm actually not aware of what's considered trendy at the minute. Like, I think the last thing I knew was trendy was like Balenciagas, and I know that's like maybe like what 7 months old at this point, isn't it? Like, it's maybe over a year. Balenciagas. I knew that was the big thing back then, but I don't really again pay too much attention to it because fashion changes so much that I don't really give a shit unless something really stands out to me and I'm like, fuck, I need this.
Should we just bring Danielle to this part? Do you want
No. She said no.
to? So I mean, what Danielle's about is fast fashion, and it's like
Nothing's up.
you can go to like Top Man or H&M or whatever, and it's like you can pick up these things that are like a rip off of like higher brands, like Gucci or something or whatever, and it's like there's a different market between streetwear because people are based on a sole market, and then there's another part where it's like people are going to the shops and looking at near replicas of like higher brands and they're buying that, and
to fit in, like, which I find very weird.
It's strange to me. Obviously there's people who just see it and be like, oh, that's nice, I'll buy it, whatever, and that's fine, but people don't really think about it when they're buying it. I know the people who are buying those things in like Topshop are going in and seeing something maybe that they like and they're like, oh, that reminds me of this brand, whatever, but they're not really thinking of it.
It's not that deep, essentially, which I understand. Like, there's a lot of people who get into like clothes because like it's the big part of like kind of building your personality is just wearing an outfit. So like from that side of people, I understand where it's like just wearing what could be considered just, I don't know, standard essentially, which is not in a pretentious way. It's just what's kind of easy to wear, and for like that I understand why fast fashion works because it's not a big deal. Like for me, like certain things like fucking quilt covers and stuff aren't a big deal, so I'll get the cheapest shit. It's not a big deal to me, so therefore I'll get it. So I understand that side of it, but I think for people approaching the fashion side, and they're going into H&M or whatever, and they're buying it for that reason to sort of fit in, like that's a different story. And I think that's why like fast fashion essentially is kind of ruining the idea of creativity, because like it puts kind of this filter on creatives because we're like, oh, what's the fucking point if like these boys are gonna be just shitting stuff out?
It's just like pumped out.
It's just pumped out and it's gone. But I think like we all kind of have our own understanding of what that's about. And at the end of the day, I think people are copping on now heading into this new like decade. Definitely. I do believe a lot of that shit's gonna die because like you can only be a leech for so long, and I think these boys they're gonna piss off eventually. So it's dying. Like, and I think like with all the internet and stuff, like everyone's copping on. Like we all know from like brands and stuff, especially the whole vintage wave now, like it's pretty understandable of like what's quality and what's not, and it doesn't matter if like Levi jeans have holes in them. I'd rather wear that than like Top Man, for that reason. Just from like the whole the fact that they don't give a shit about what they're putting out is just shitting it out.
It's just getting it out as
literally
fast as they can.
Yep.
So how do you nearly moderate your quality control, and what's your brackets for what is deemed suitable to you and suitable to your buyers as well?
For me, like I'm like big on vintage t-shirts. Like I love like 90s t-shirts and sort of like how the quality stays there for like years. So like that was pretty much my emphasis on like t-shirts. I'm a huge tea collector. Like honestly, that's like the biggest collection I have. I'm such a nerd for collecting shit, but like vintage tees are where it's at, and I think that's where it is, because the idea of me making a t-shirt and it being about like 40 years after I'm dead is like a crazy idea to me. Like some kid being like, man, I found this weird ass Mickey Mouse rip off t-shirt and he's still wearing it and I'm like dead 40 years. Like that shit is so cool to me, and I like the idea of that. So that's pretty much where my quality standards at. The idea of just sort of having the best quality premium t-shirt, which is not the greatest in UK, because I know that in the States they use pretty much the Supreme blanks, which I forget off the top of my head, but like for us, I pretty much get the best kind of like almost single stitch quality you can get. Like it's like 100% cotton, good neck, it'll survive like 25 fucking years, and then it'll be vintage.
It's good. I mean, I think that's such a big thing for me as well. It's like when I'm buying an item of clothing, I nearly have to feel the quality, and it's like, is this going to last me? Could I nearly hand this down to somebody? And that's such a big thing for me. In regards to your own t-shirts, like, does that quality control still go towards your own brand?
Like designs, is it you're on about? I like in like design aspect, for me, like the whole, I do like a lot of like, doodles and kind of that aesthetic. Like that is the Sadsac aesthetic for me. For me, it was something I was always kind of in love with. I love like the idea of like cartoons and like that kind of nostalgic. Like I'm a huge fan of like vintage Mickey Mouse stuff and like all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty much where I kind of, I'm a huge fan as well of like early golf wang. Like I don't know what it is. I'm a huge fan of just like cartoons on t-shirts. It's very silly and light, and I like the idea of it. So me entering that kind of like realm of like this universe, it was interesting to me because like Sadsac is essentially its own cartoon. I'm trying to create this kind of universe where like the Sadsac character essentially, you can understand by its lips that that kind of looks like it's been like sad-sacked or whatever, or is this kind of like perspective on it, which again sounds fucking corny, but I understand. Like I'm trying to like put every cartoon that I fuck with into this, kind of like fuck SpongeBob into it and shit, and like kind of like bring those whole worlds together, And I think with the whole reconstruction side, I do like kind of like meshing that whole kind of worlds together, like. And it's interesting.
And between your own brand, like your own designs and stuff, and what you do in regards to the reconstruction, I think they meld well together. There's no stark difference between your own brand and then your like separate reconstruction sort of things that you're doing. I think they meld well together in regards to, you said, the cartoon aspect and stuff, like in regards to like Marvel and even the WWE. It was just like they come together so well, and I think that's something that's a great selling point for you, because it's not people that are only buying this branch of you. They would need to buy the both because they're interchangeable.
Yeah, it was something I never really like planned on, and even now I'm still, I think the idea is kind of weird to me that selling like a graphic t-shirt, selling vintage product, and also selling reconstruction, it seems a little bit messy, but like it's always weird. Like whenever my dad usually tells me don't do that, I usually know that I should be doing it, because my dad for so long has been like, don't do that, you need to split it up, you need to be either doing just vintage, just merchandise. And usually when he says it, I'm like, all right, well, he's old, so obviously I need to be like merging all this shit together. And obviously like, my dad's given me like a lot of good advice over the years, but I always know that kind of tone when he approaches it, where I'm like, right, I have to not listen to this. And I think that's a good way of approaching it, because like the whole vintage community, like they all made fun of me for entering that reconstruction side. And then you get the reconstruction people who kind of like don't fuck with the idea of me selling all this kind of doodle t-shirts and shit, and they kind of be like, man, go back to doodle shit. But again, if you put all that collective together, it just makes a very interesting store. And again, with the whole like, there's not enough CEX, there's not enough comic shops. Because like going into those stores, there's so much kind of shit. You're like, fuck, I want a bit of this, and I want a vintage tee, and I want, fuck, the £150 for the jeans, man. Fuck it, I'll spend a check on it. I want the idea of kind of entering that comic book store again, creating that kind of collective of, Sadsac is this kind of like emotional, silly character that kind of brings all this shit together. And like, why would you avoid that?
Perfect. I think you yourself, you're very inspiring in how you speak about something that you've created yourself. If you were nearly speaking to somebody who would want to get into it, or would nearly be interested in designing their own clothes or doing something, I guess, like what advice would you give them?
Like I've thought about that a lot. I get a lot of people like messaging me being like, oh, look what I created, and what do you think of this? And like, it's very new to me, because like for the last 3 years, like, no one really gave a shit to kind of message me, but I've been getting a little bit of popularity from this. So I've been getting a lot of people almost trying to recreate what I've done. So like I'll get a lot of people essentially sending me the same stuff I've made, but with a different character, which obviously I'm going to get to eventually. And I think they're sort of getting the wrong idea of it, but again, I can understand that, because I was like that. So the advice I would give is I would like definitely delete everything regardless of what you want to enter. So if you want to become a SoundCloud rapper, delete everything you're listening to temporarily, and I would just enter a room and just fucking sit there with a fucking mate, or fucking stay up till 5 a.m. and just get very weird with it. I think like the more vulnerable you are, the best kind of shit is going to come out. And definitely if you get to a point where you've created something and you're like, man, this is fucking weird, then it's probably a good idea. I think whenever I was in school and we came up with the most bizarre, funniest, kind of ironic and derogatory shit, like comedy wise, that was very creative material that if we put on YouTube it would have been very successful. But like
Yeah.
for like 14-year-olds, they're not thinking about that. They're just trying to get to like the lunch break so they can go home. But honestly, whenever you get to that level and that state of mind, that's where there's a market. Is like you definitely don't want to like live up to what I'm doing. You want to do something completely different in a complete spectrum. And if
Yeah.
people are saying that is fucking shit, then you stick with it and you prove them wrong. Like honestly.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
I
'cause
think it's
fuck
just
that.
remove nearly like if you're going into a creative zone, remove your outside influences and just nearly become one with your own creativity.
Yeah.
Don't be looking at all things when you're trying to create your own thing. Literally just sit with yourself and just let your mind work.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like even I get to points where I would be like, I would let influences kind of like, almost kind of manipulate me. Where I would look at other people doing what I'm doing. I'm like, shit, they're very professional of how they do their, photography. Or fuck, I'll not be good enough. But that's a very normal mindset.
Of course.
And again, it's kind of
everybody has that.
yeah, for sure. Like I think like that's all very normal. But again, it's just really, being very creative, which is very difficult because it is hard to make something new. But it should be a very fun and natural process. And I can't give you an answer because there shouldn't really be an answer. It's just,
I think that's actually it's pretty solid. Like actually completely removing all like other like competition in there because whenever I'm designing stuff, it's like I feel like for a long time before I actually got properly into it, I was like looking at like certain brands like Stussy and like Supreme and stuff like that there, and even like just like I know like I'm doing like poster work and stuff like that in graphic design.
Yep.
Like I try and like make that influence what I was doing, and then like sometimes I'd find that I was like almost like kind of copying what they were doing, but it was just completely accidental. And I got to the point where I literally had to just like stop looking at that stuff
'Cause
and
you
just
can't
sit in a
help
room
it.
by myself and just do something.
You'll find if you're around like Americans or French people, you'll sort of notice your voice kind of like changing to theirs. Like I'm terrible for that. I'd be like kind of like, man, what am I doing with my accent here? You're sort of like, and that's just the way our brains work. We naturally go to what is comfortable around us.
The norm.
It's just acknowledging that. It's just being able to be like, right, well, obviously I've created the Supreme box logo again, so I cannot release this, and that's really it.
Yeah.
Just keep going until people say it's shit, and if it's shit, then you're onto something because. That's what everyone told me when I was doing the reconstruction. They were just like, man, who the fuck would pay for like something with a face on it like that? And I was like, I sort of believed them there for a while, but then like different things happened.
But that's nearly a test in regards to doing something that you want to do. You're obviously going to get those people who are like, well, this will never do it. This will never work. People won't buy this. How can you charge this for this? Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But you've persevered and it's obviously working for you. So that, if anything, should say to people that they should continue and follow their dreams, and they'll get to a point where it starts working for them.
For sure. I do believe genuinely, like, if you stick at something long enough, like, it's bound to work out in some shape or form. And if it doesn't work out, then you just move to a next thing, if that's what you want to do in a creative field. You just don't really give up with that shit. Just because you've been rapping on SoundCloud for 3 years doesn't mean that you should have a deal. It just means that you just approach it from a different way, like, honestly.
See, sorry, completely off topic, like almost. With your name Sadsac, and I purposely didn't ask this until right now. Why did you go with the name Sadsac? Because it's really interesting. But like, do you have a reason as to why?
There's actually a lot of kind of funny ass meaning behind that. When I was creating the Sadsac character, I actually didn't know how to draw at that stage at all. I mean, like, I'd literally dropped out of like college because I fucking hated it and it just wasn't for me. And it was at the point where I was staying up till like 5 a.m. being like, man, what the fuck am I doing, lad? And pretty much there was this point where I was at a very confusing and low point of my life, and I literally was like in fucking Word. And I literally was so bored, and I was like, right, I need to distract myself because this is so annoying. And I was just drawing this face, and pretty much I drew the Sadsac character. And I literally like wrote the word Sadsac, and because I wrote the actual word Sadsac was because I was listening to the song by Daniel Johnston called Sadsac and Tarzan.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as I seen the word Sadsac, it was spelled SADSAC. It literally like resonated with me, and I was like, "Fuck, I can relate to it." Because my mum always gets on to me because I would walk about my local town, and I would just have the driest face. And mum's like, "You honestly need to start smiling, Daniel. Like, there's people coming up to me saying that you're actually so hostile." So I was sort of like trying to embrace that whole thing and being like, "Fuck, I'm a Sadsac. I don't give a fuck." And it just really resonated for me. And not even joking, when I spelt the Sadsac, when I spelt it, I actually genuinely thought that's the way it was spelt. I didn't realize sack had a K in it. And then it was only when I got the fucking samples made, I'd invested my £200 that I got. I don't know if I keep saying this, but I got from the college. You know the way they give you that fucking money? I'd spent all my money on these Sadsac t-shirts.
Give me that money.
That,
Balloons, like.
and I was at that point, I think I realized where I was like, shit, I spelt sack wrong. And obviously I had to fucking go with it because like that was it and it was game plan. And I think the idea of the kind of failure behind that was hilarious because it sort of looks better. I think if it had a K in it, it would ruin it. So for me, it just...
It's good. It's like the three letter.
It worked.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's a good point as well, is if something doesn't go right, it can kind of go better in the sense of another kind of route. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. I didn't have a notion. I always wondered, why Sadsac?
I know. But it kind of rolls nice.
It does.
Like,
It does.
It's pure sad boy vibes. That's what I thought.
Right?
That's what I thought. So Daniel, why don't you tell everybody about future projects that you have coming up?
I have a lot of things I'm working on. Like there's something I can't talk about, which I'm really excited about. Like I really Hey.
I'm so excited about that one.
It's I'm honestly, it's even interesting that I'm actually at that point where I'm like, there's stuff I can't actually talk about and shit, which is fucking weird. But like, yeah, I actually haven't collaborated with anyone. But like, there's a lot of collaborations on the way, which I'm really excited about. And there's a lot of interest in like, yeah, there's a lot of shit happening, but I can't really speak about it.
This is your year now.
Yeah, like 2020 is gonna be really interesting. Like
every year's your year, doesn't matter.
I appreciate that, dude.
Well,
like,
that was very mysterious.
Hey.
So Daniel, we're gonna roll out the red carpet. Just plug
Sounds good.
whatever you have to plug. Your Instagram, where you're selling.
Yeah, man.
Blah, blah.
Honestly, Sadsac and everything, and then there's an underscore Sadsac for pretty much all like the social shit, and Sadsac without the K, so SADSAC. Spelled incorrectly, embraced completely.
Your Depop as well, is it the same?
Depop is just OG Sadsac, SADSAC. You'll find me.
Happy days. So I think that's us.
Hey.
That was the second episode of the Craic Boys. David, say goodbye.
See ya.
Daniel, say goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Good luck.
See ya.
Oh my gang. That's us.
Hey, cheers. Hey, cheers.